Hey, me from the future here with the somewhat sad news that this entire series of vlogs is based on a lie. Okay, it's not that bad, but remember how I said that I got the production order out of this book, Bandai Entertainment Bible number 24, whose full title I already mentioned in the first part, so I'm not going to mention it again. Yeah, turns out this is the script writing order. Though to be fair, I could not find this kanji combination in here, the definitive kanji dictionary. However, this book, Toso Tokusatsu Bijutsu Daikei Dai Urutoraman Zukan, or just the Pictorial Book of Ultraman, although if you want to fully translate the title, it is Special Effects Fantasy Fine Arts System Big Ultraman Picture Book. Anyway, this has the correct production order. As you can see, it's a little different. It's not completely different in several places, and several of the sequences are the same, but it's not 100% accurate. But given its similarities, I'm not going to bother rearranging anything in these videos, especially since I shot them over 2 years ago. And my opinions are still pretty much the same, as are my speculations as to why they went with the order that they did broadcast-wise. Still, I thought you should know. Took longer than I thought in between videos here. I'd hoped to do one a day, so I'd be done in 4 days, but I've been busy, and among other things, preparing panels for Setsucon. Also, I rewatched episode 7 because there was a discussion on Facebook about whether or not the Largios bird had a breath weapon. It didn't. Although, 2 things I'm not sure I mentioned. Good use of shaky cam. They used it when you should use it, not just, hey, let's shake the camera because you're supposed to. Isn't my movie great because it's dark and I'm making a religious metaphor and I'm only using one capital letter in the entire movie? Also, there's a scene where Saburo, he's got a duffel bag, he's going to throw it in a boat and he slips. And he gets back up and he throws it in. That has to be a happy accident. I don't think that, if that was choreographed, it didn't look it. It's a nice touch there, nice touch of realism. Bum 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 bum. So let's get to the 8th episode in production order, which is the 6th broadcast. Grow Up Little Turtle, or in Japanese, Sodate yo Kame. Grow Up Turtle. No little. Now, this is based on the folktale of Urashima Taro, which has been mentioned in some other bits of Japanese popular culture, some of which is even something else. A guy named Urashima Taro saves the life of a turtle, and the turtle carries him to the Dragon Palace, where he meets a princess and has an amazing time there, but he wants to go home, so when he goes back home, he's given a box and told not to open it. He comes back and realizes that much more time has passed than he thought. Centuries have passed. He opens the box, and the time that was held back comes back to him, and he ages to death. In this version, Urashima Taro is a little boy who is raising a turtle because he believes that once it grows to 99 centimeters, it'll take him to the Dragon Palace. The teacher does not like him bringing the turtle to school. This seems to be a common theme in Japanese film. It's really bad for a kid to bring a turtle to school, and teachers are really strict about that. Maybe that was a common problem back in the 60s. It'd be nice to not have real problems, wouldn't it? Interestingly, when the kid tells the teacher that it's going to take him to the Dragon Palace when it grows big enough, the teacher tells him not to lie. So anyhow, the teacher ties the turtle up on a string. Well, actually, the turtle is on a string. I guess that's a turtle leash. But he ties it up and it's spinning, and I'm wondering, that seems like animal cruelty. I don't know. I should have got my camera to demonstrate. Anyway, so the kid has to go on the roof, and he sees a robbery going on, and the police and the criminals are all kind of acting comically, and there's undercranking, and I'm surprised the police have regular police helmets and not Keystone Cops ones. I don't think there was a silent movie music, but kid reactions, a bunch of close-up stills, and there are a couple of transitions. Maybe that was inspired by Batman, spinning transition. Remember how the last episode was the first to have a child protagonist? This even more so. Dr. Ichinotani doesn't show up in here, and our trio
basically just cameos. They're on screen for... I was trying to time it and then I kind of gave up, but not much more than a minute. Definitely less than 2 minutes. They're investigating the bank robbery, which turns out to be real. First, the kid reports a robbery to the teacher, and the teacher says, "You're lying again. Remember how you lied about that fire just so you could go home early?" And that's a little bit of a problem here. Was he lying about the turtle? He believes the turtle is going to grow up big and take him to the Dragon Palace. That's delusional. That's not lying. I mean, it's not true, but if you say something that you believe is true, you are, well, mistaken. You're not lying. That doesn't make it any more true. They establish him as being obsessed with his turtle and believing something ridiculous about his turtle before they establish him as lying. That's, I don't know. That's not a good idea. But anyway, I made way too many notes about this, so a lot of editing to come, I think. Oh, the teacher is actually translated as sensei, so I think they've done it out in other places too, but that's still commendable. I was wondering if the fire actually happened, but no, he does. There are some things where he's definitely lying later on, so... We'll get to that. One interesting thing, the credits are handwritten. That is the names in the credits. It says director, that's machine lettered, and then, whatever. Film lab, that's Kinoshita, whatever. It's an interesting look. And there's also an amusing sequence. He's training the turtle. He's putting it through. He's got down a slide, down a ruler, basically, that's a slide, and he's has a little, I think he's got a little sword there. He's trying to do kendo with it. And did I mention Urashima Taro's name is mentioned in Japanese order? That's kind of interesting. Maybe they realize, what, if we say Taro Urashima, it won't fit the fairy tale, like saying Takeru Yamato, ADV. Anyway, the criminals return to the school. The kid goes back to the school for some reason. I don't know, I guess he wants to get some, maybe left some... Or no, maybe just to train the turtle. Actually, I think that's why he's in the school, to train the turtle, have more room, he'll have more equipment. And the bank robbers return, and I think the turtle bites one of them, or they get tangled in the turtle's... Anyway, the turtle goes off with them, so the kid goes after them, and, now the parents are wondering what happened, and that's one of the few places where our trio shows up. And then there's this whole sequence where they've got machine guns, and, wow, can I touch it? Can I play with it? Can I? Yeah, then he actually gets his hands on the machine gun, and he's kind of stupid, really. He's like, wow, this is neat, can I shoot it? It's like, that wasn't a ruse to get the gun from them so you can force them to let you go? No, wow, it's not working. Why isn't it working? I'm not exaggerating. That's really what... And the criminals go, wait, guys, you forgot your gun, and I want my turtle back. Wait, and they go to this park. I don't think it's Nara Dreamland. They have a teacup ride where they have off-modeled, and so probably unlicensed Disney characters on there. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think Nara Dreamland would have been stupid enough to use unlicensed off-model Disney characters. They were smart enough to do their own characters after their agreement with Disney fell through. Anyhow, Taro is in the sewers with the bank robbers, and the turtle grows to 99 centimeters. So now it can take him to the Dragon Palace, and after a little bit of back rigmarole where it rides a turtle and falls off, and the turtle walks through a wall, and the turtle comes back anyway, the turtle takes him to the Dragon Palace. First they fly in the air, and how fast are we going? Yeah, a panel on the shelf flips up, and there's a speedometer there. Nice goofy effect there. So then they go in the underwater, and then he ends up at the Dragon Palace, which is the fog dimension from the Disappearing Plane episode, except sometimes has fish superimposed in the fog, and then he sees this little girl on a swing going up who knows how high, and she's Princess Otohime, and a bunch of back and forth. And he has something in his hand, and he says, hey, you better do as I say, because this is an atomic bomb. Then he throws it, and then it actually blows up, and you gotta stop lying. He says, well, his lie came true. I don't know. It's a bunch of weird stuff, other dreamlike stuff. There's one part, he wants to go on the swing, and he doesn't say please or thank you or anything. It's just, let me land. And he's swinging, and then the swing disappears, and then he's still swinging, and that's a great effect. Anyhow, he says he wants to go back, so the princess, he promises not to lie. The princess gives him a box. Not this box, because DVDs didn't exist in 1966. In fact, I think, was Clint Eastwood still doing Rawhide? But no, I think he was doing spaghetti westerns by that point. Anyway, he comes back and he vows never to lie, but then when they ask him where he is, he tells the truth and they don't believe him. And they laugh, and then he opens the box and he becomes old. And then, and everybody's laughing at him, and it's very dreamlike, and then suddenly he's back to normal, and he runs out, and then... Actually, would have been good if it ended with him being an old man and everybody laughing at him. It would have been very Twilight Zone-like. In fact, I almost wonder if the network insisted on a happier ending. Well, he's back in school, except everybody except him is training a turtle because I guess they heard his story. There are some who theorize that this episode was a dream, which does make sense of the dream logic, but then why would our investigators be in it? I don't know. It's kind of even for Ultra Q, it's kind of weird trying to figure out if it's real or not. And as I said, the whole thing with the lying, part of that, he's not always lying. Sometimes he's just delusional. I think they should have set him up more that he was a kid who outright lies. So now when weird stuff is happening, nobody believes him. But then maybe they couldn't fit the turtle in. I don't know. It's kind of awkward trying to match the two things together. It's entertaining, but it does have some holes, which I don't know. Oh yes, when a turtle grows to full size, it's proportioned differently. I mean, if you look carefully, it's walking on its knees with its hind legs because, of course, it's a person crawling, possibly Nakajima Haruo. That's, of course, common for four-legged kaiju. And I was thinking, maybe if they'd made it a sea turtle, the flippers would, could be flippers. It doesn't look like you're knee walking if you make them flippers, but then I realized, yeah, but it's a land turtle when it's small, so that it would grow larger, fine, but it would have become a different species. That wouldn't appear to be the same turtle, so I kind of stuck with it. Entertaining, but I don't blame people for theorizing that it's a dream. Okay, few things I forgot to mention. One is that one scene, the princess rides on a dragon, which is Manda from Atragon, or Kaitei Gunkan, whatever title you prefer. And the other is that the turtle's name is Gameron, which, very likely, inspired by the name of this guy, of course, Gamera, because Kame means turtle, but Kamera was already taken. Also interesting, pointless coincidence, Gameron was an occasional mispronunciation of Gamera in the KTMA episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Production Episode 9, Broadcast Episode 17, The 1/8 Project, or Hachibun no Ichi Keikaku. And while the previous two episodes had child protagonists, and in fact the previous one reduced our trio of Jun, Ippei, and Yuriko to cameos, this one focuses on them, specifically on Yuriko. She, Jun, and Ippei are driving, and they notice the people lining up to volunteer for something called the 1/8 Project, so Yuriko goes in to investigate. And, she's told that in order to conserve resources and increase living space, people are volunteering to be shrunk to 1/8 of their normal size, and apparently they don't have to pay taxes, they can do whatever they want, healthcare is free. Well, she finds it monstrous, but people are rushed to the elevator, and she's just told to go with them, kind of forced to go with them. It doesn't seem like he's being... Okay, come along here. Okay. And she's shrunk against her will, and when they explain this... And they also explain that this is your name tag that has your number on it. From now on, we use numbers instead of names. And I thought, wait, you want people to volunteer for this, but you're doing something like that? But then they explain that some people have the same name, but nobody would have the same number, so it's less confusing. And that sounds like a stupid idea that a government person might actually come up with, like vaccinating your kids slowly over a period of years, which is great if you're really rich and can just isolate them from everybody else, while they make lemonade stands and then sell the lemonade to the servants, or make phony arrowheads to then find with their friends and then sell to those friends. And I'm getting political again, sorry. Yuriko is told that she entered without filling the proper paperwork and without a passport. They've got to put her in jail until they straighten everything out. So they put her, they put her in a box, and then they... Actually, I think all too often, she's in this box quite a bit, and sometimes it is jostled or moved, and they don't cut to her inside it. Sometimes they do. They put it in the slot of a regular-sized jail cell where a fat guy wearing suspenders remarkably similar to these, and this is a coincidence. He says, "Oh boy, dinner time! Hey, that's a person!" and says, "Please help me escape! Hey, why are you here?" Well, they got to build a larger shrinking machine to fit a fat guy in. She promises she'll come back with a huge steak for him if he helps her escape. So he uses her suspenders, and he gets the box out, then it kind of falls, and gets some water, and then some kids find it, and some nuns find the kids. Oh, this is the 1/8 project. We got to take it back to them, but then Yuriko is there. "No, please don't take me to Haneda Airlines," or whatever the heck the airline is called. Oh, okay. they do. And I thought for a second, they just left her there. And the rest, well, the other two guys are out. So he said, no, just leave the box here. It'll be fine. By the way, all of these effects, the shrinking and different size effects, they're great. I mean, combination of oversized props, models, and opticals. Great job, guys. Yes, so if anybody complains about bad special effects, they're not always bad. Well, I've always said this about Japanese tokusatsu. It's variable. It runs the gamut. But anyhow, she gets out and she hides behind the picture of her with a black ribbon on it, because apparently the families of people who volunteer for the 1/8 project are told that they're dead. Again, that sounds like something that might work. Well, June and Ippei land, and Ippei is, very reverent, and still talking to the photo as if it were Yoriko, and little does he know she's hiding behind it. And June is cold. I mean, it's pretty clear that it's too painful. He doesn't want to think about her. Actually, the first time I saw it, it looked like Yoriko didn't understand that she thought he meant it. But whatever. I think she realized. But oh, yeah, important part. Ippei comes in with some balloons. He ties them to he says, if Yoriko were still alive, I'd give them to her. What's this box? Oh, okay, a little furniture in it. How cute. Ties some balloons to it. Anyhow, after the men leave, Yoriko, I guess she realizes she can't exist in the big people world anymore. So she gets a big pencil and sayonara, Yoriko. We see the box floating with the balloons, so the balloons weren't strong enough to carry it before, so I don't know. I'm not sure how. Did Yoriko push it off the table and then push it outside and then take stuff out until the weight was low enough? We later see she's made it to the 1/8 project city, so I guess she was in it. And then we see Ippei and June there in the city looking for her. I guess they found the note and tied everything together. I guess it's kind of vague, but then no. I like it here. Everybody's happy. There's nothing really establishing it being happy. And in fact, we're told it's kind of a utopia, but it really just looks like a regular city. But okay, they only have a half hour, but there's it's still a good episode, but there are some places where we're told rather than being shown. While they're looking for it, they damage parts of the city, and it's kind of interesting to see a kaiju type thing where the kaiju is just a normal sized human in normal clothes. Great models. Yeah, it's a Tsuburaya production. What were the odds of that? 1-1? And then I guess everybody's running down steps. Maybe they're trying to get away from the giants who are inadvertently wrecking the city. I don't know, but big crowd again, just like at the beginning, where we saw a crowded subway, crowded train station, and some people wearing, okay, actually the masks were because they had a cold, but still, it kind of looks because of pollution. Then Yoriko wakes up in the hospital. Apparently it was all a dream, which unlike the other episode where, well, people theorize it's a dream, which would make sense of some of the nonsense, this, except for a few jumps, which might just be due to the necessity to truncate the story, it's fairly logical. But no, it was a dream. But we are told that people in the megalithic era were 18 meters tall and 5 meters wide. I looked that up. Maybe that's a theory some people had. How did they build Stonehenge? Well, if they were 18 meters tall and 5 meters wide, they could move those big rocks much more easily. Yeah. Hint, it wonders, why are people smaller now? We're not actually saying it, but perhaps they were shrunk and they forgot they were shrunk. I don't know. Oh yeah, one thing I didn't notice in the previous episode until I watched this one, the previous episode, the Urashimataro turtle one, had no narration. This one does. No mention of imbalance, and actually Dr. Ichinotani is mentioned but not shown. Oh yeah, it seems a little odd. I mean, if they're a place for people who've been shrunk, why don't they have a shrunk jail? They just have a regular jail. Okay, I guess maybe the guy was they just put the guy in the jail because they had no other place to put him while they were building the fat person shrinking machine. But wouldn't they maybe have a small jail? Okay, I guess, yeah, if they did, then the plot wouldn't work, but still, it seems a little odd. This does seem similar, at least in concept, to downsizing. I don't think this is a case of plagiarism. This is just a kind of an idea, and it's certainly done very differently, and I think it is anyway. Oh, one other thing. This may be the first episode in broadcast order to not feature a monster. Well, it kind of does with the giant, or rather normal-sized, relatively giant June and Ippei inadvertently destroying parts of the city.
Re, fa, mi, fa, re, fa, mi, fa, re, fa, mi, fa, re, fa, mi, fa, re, la, so far.
Production episode 10, broadcast episode 8, Terror of the Sweet Honey, or Amai Mitsu no Kyofu, Yeah, hopefully keeping notes on this will make it easier to not miss any. So it starts off, it's late at night, and somebody breaks into a restricted research facility, and then next day, or somewhat later, whatever, it's daytime anyway, June is basically giving Ippei flying lesson. He already knows how to fly, but he's helping him improve. That's it. Yeah, he's helping him improve his flying, and they notice that something underground, an earthquake or something else is happening in front of a train. The train crashes. They fly off to report it, and soon enough, a giant mole appears. The lab was making a concentrated, super powerful form of royal jelly, which had a queen bee, which was much larger than a queen bee should be. It was like, yeah, this is about the wingspan, I think. Seems to be the mole broke in there and ate the honey jellion, it's called. One thing I'm noticing here, it's always Yuriko, Jun, and Ippei investigating everything. It's like, it used to be that Jun was a reporter from one newspaper, and they'd have other reporters, everybody's reporting on, they kind of get involved in it, and, well, I guess Ippei and Jun flew her there, so, okay, that's why they're involved, and also Jun is interested anyway. You got ideas for science fiction stories. Now it's just, they seem to be investigators. Well, then again, I mean, they do work with Dr. Ichino Tani, who, by the way, is back in this episode. So is the mention of unbalanced zone in the narration. So maybe I guess he's a special advisor for the government, so they kind of have also clearance. I don't know, but I think that it kind of explains why in the Ultraman series they would then have the Science Patrol or Ultra Garrison or whatever, an organization whose job it was to investigate stuff like this. Minor quibble, not, I'm not trying to be your movie sucks or every frame a mistake. Is there? That sounds like there should be a YouTube channel with that title, and then they just lambaste movies as if they had any skill. Anyway, the scientist who invented the Royal Jellion, Kimura, does he have a doctorate? Oh, they just call him Kimura-san. Is really upset. He feels like it's all his fault. He invented this stuff, and also he didn't secure his lab enough, he feels, much to the consternation of his fiancée, Aiko. And, well, it is mentioned, apparently, Aiko clearly loves him. I think he's concentrating too much on a lot on his work, and now he's worried about everything. He doesn't really show affection to her. And it is mentioned by their friend Itami that it was an arranged. Well, he doesn't really say it's an arranged marriage, but that's kind of what it is. Anyway, so our heroes investigate, and I gotta say, Yuriko does have a good reporter's instincts. She notices that the area of glass where the mole supposedly got in doesn't have any glass on the inside, and seems to be broken by a hammer, and also the lock was broken, so and then they tried to fix. Basically, she realizes that it's a setup. Somebody made it look like the mole broke in. The giant mole, like a lot of Ultra Q kaiju, it's not actually named on screen, but its name is Mongura. Mogura is Japanese for mole, so this is Mongura. And it's a pretty good effect. We don't see it very much. Actually, it might be a good thing, actually. It's I think what's more following the mystery of eventually, they realize Itami did that. Well, he runs off once a witness remembers seeing him. I forget why I didn't see him before. I really got to keep better notes. You'd think I would be now. He runs off, and then, they've tracked down where the mole is, and the idea is they will blow up all the exits, except so it'll have to exit in one place, and then this self-defense force can attack it with tanks and missiles. And, they go there, and Itami is there. He said he's going to blow it up. He wants to make up for what he did, and he explains the whole reason he did this was he was jealous. He's always been jealous of people who did better than he did his whole life. So he was jealous of Kimura. So he blows it up, and then Itami he's dying. He managed to make it out of there, but the explosion and the whatever. And he also confesses that he was in love with Aiko, and he tells Kimura to make her happy. And he dies. And the mole comes out of the exit, and everybody runs, even though their cars are there. And I think the whole reason is so that then the mole can smash the cars. Well, they actually don't quite defeat it. They shoot at it, and then Dr. Ichino Tani says, well, it'll definitely no longer emerge because it's afraid to after it was being shot at. Yeah, right. And then suddenly... Oh yeah, did I mention this happens near Mount Fuji? Yeah, I even made a note about that. The show makes it clear that apparently he got into the volcanic strata and that killed him, I guess, off screen. That's a little disappointing, but at least we see some nice I think it's stock footage from Toho films and other things done by Tsuburaya, and uses the stock footage very well. So a good episode. I think we just have to accept that our trio investigates stuff and that they're sanctioned to do that. I mean, it is kind of their job. It's especially Yoriko's job, and it's kind of Jun's job because of he's a science fiction writer as a part-time, so wants to get ideas. Does that sound good? Because they work with Dr. Ichino Tani, and they've also proven themselves time after time. So, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. Production episode 11, broadcast episode 2, Goro and Goro, in Japanese, Goro to Goro, the former written in kanji, the latter written in katakana. And I think I've seen some translations that alter the spellings to show that they are spelled or written differently in Japanese. Anyway, so we start off with a ropeway and whatever cable dangly car. You've seen them. Remember first Sam Raimi Spider-Man? Tramway. Ropeway is the Japanese term, anyway, over a nature preserve with monkeys. And suddenly, and there's a giant, it's supposed to be a giant monkey shaking the cables. I gotta talk about this giant monkey. It's the Kong suit from King Kong versus Godzilla, which I believe at least one reviewer has called the third worst gorilla suit in film history. I know Ape had a worse one. I don't know if Ape was number 1 or number 2, but it was bad. And it's they added a tail to it, and the tail is the best part. I mean, the tail doesn't just hang down not doing anything. It actually does move when we see it. And the performance of whoever's in the suit, probably Nakajima Haruo, is good, but the suit does look bad. So anyway, there are these scientists doing research on the monkeys, and they notice that some of their chemicals have been stolen, so they get angry at their caretaker, who is this young man with an intellectual disability. And they get mad. They almost beat him up until they almost punch him. I mean, tell you stole it! Oh, poor guy. Jeez, wow, what the heck, guys? Less sympathetic times, I guess. And again, this is back when teachers got overly upset at children for bringing turtles to school, apparently. But no, it looks like the monkeys broke in, and they ate all of the aoba walnuts, or the aoba walnut potions. It's not quite clear. We'll get to that in a moment. So anyway, Yoriko is away off on an island somewhere doing an assignment. So her boss, would chief be the right term? They say desko. So his title is desk. So anyhow, desk, they translate as boss or chief. I think they vary. But anyway, he hires Jun and Ippei to fly him to the island, and he has another photographer get some good shots. And they find out that Goro is a young man who really doesn't get along too well with people, but has become very friendly with the monkeys. And in fact, they realize that he is actually still friendly with the giant monkey, who's also named Goro, spelled in katakana. Hey, we finally got a monster named on screen. They call him, well, as near as I can tell, the term was Otekichi. They translate as monkey boy. Kichi is, I think, a common monkey name ending somehow. That's where Monchichi comes from, I think. And then Goro gets in trouble for stealing food to feed his giant friend. And, by the way, speaking of the lousy ape suit, there's also a scene where big Goro picks up little Goro, and the miniature little Goro looks... Well, it's definitely fake. It's fake in a different... It looks very fake, too. I guess they didn't want a realistic one to clash with the suit's fakeness. And then the police take him away, and then giant monkey Goro comes to rescue his friend. And, Yuriko comes back from her job, and in fact, she saw a giant monkey on the island. The giant monkey was very friendly with the natives, and in fact, picked Thai fruit for them, helped shipwrecks. So anyhow, now she's told to go to work again and investigate the monkey some more, and so she goes with Ippei and Jun, and they talk to the scientist. The scientist explains that the monkey must have eaten or drank aoba walnuts, which were used during the war to increase stamina in soldiers. I did a little research. I couldn't find no record of that. I mean, I can believe that experiments were done with chemicals to improve stamina in soldiers. That's the sort of thing people do in war. I think the actual aoba walnuts are made up. They say that normally monkeys are peaceful, which there's a discussion on Facebook that's the opposite. Monkeys tend to be rather nasty. Apes tend to be. Basically, the larger a primate gets, the more peaceful it is. Although, I don't know, humans are pretty large as far as primates go. I don't think humans quite count there. That kind of disproves Darwinism. I was like, how come they get more peaceful and then, wah, and then they're peaceful again? As I said, Goro is in jail. Giant Goro comes to rescue him. They figure, okay, we got to get Goro to lure him out. And so they do that, and they give Goro a big jug of milk to give to Goro, and drinks it and then falls asleep and attached some sleeping potion in there. Human Goro didn't know that, and he's screaming. Well, the plan is while he's asleep, they will take him to the island with the other giant monkey, and he can live peacefully there. But I don't think Goro realizes it. He screams. I don't know. He thinks maybe his friend is dead. And was rather sad there. I mean, I think hopefully ultimately, he'll learn that his friend is fine, and maybe he'll go with him to the island. A good episode. It's interesting. It has the same theme as the previous episode in production, or that, an animal eats some kind of formula and grows to giant size. The difference is this one means less harm. Well, I guess a mole didn't really mean much harm either, but I don't think anyone even dies in this one. But, also we got the friendship there, and we got, somewhat, it's done in a different style, but, so I can see why this is episode 2. This is more child-friendly, and the other one, the giant mole, and the adult romance and rivalry, jealousy thing, that's, save that for later. Save that for episode, was it 8? Oh, one more thing. The narration mentions unbalance again, although there's no end narration, and it's just unbalanced. They don't mention an unbalanced zone.
DF, EF, DF, EF, DF, EF, DF, EF, DA, BF.
Now we come to production episode 12, broadcast episode 1, Defeat Gomess, or Gomesu o Tause. I really had to look that up. Anyway, while they're digging a tunnel through a mountain for an expressway, diggers, miners, whatever, excavators come across something, and one guy who has been known to drink on the job claims he saw a monster, but nobody believes him because it's too early in the episode, and, well, there's the history of alcoholism. That does actually make some sense. Hey, if you're watching the show in broadcast order, it's, well, giant monsters aren't an established thing yet. But the opening credits are over this, they just reveal parts of this monster at a time. It's a repurposed Godzilla suit, but it works. And there are a few parts where they kind of wipe, the monster's tail wipes, and the credits appear. The tail is wiped. Not for every credit, but it's kind of interesting. The monster's movements are move some rubble aside, and it's almost the credits kind of. It's a neat effect. By the way, there's opening and ending narration, neither of which mentions unbalance, let alone an unbalanced zone. Anyway, they find a big rock. They don't know if it's a meteorite or what. So Yuriko asks her boss to send her to investigate, which she does, and then she and Jun and Ippei are there. So Jun and Yuriko go into the cave to explore. Ippei stays behind because apparently he's the liaison. And then this kid, the episode has a kid. He's a bit older than usual. He's, I think, junior high, maybe early high school. His name's Jiro, and he seems to know a lot of science stuff, but nobody believes him. He's been wrong about stuff before. And he's wearing Harold Lloyd glasses. Actually, quite a few characters do. I don't know why I haven't mentioned it before. Just kind of interesting. So Jiro says that something similar has been found in another cave, which might be connected to this cave via volcanic strata. So Ippei flies him and this scientist to the other cave. There's a shrine there, and they've discovered this ancient document, and it has drawings of a Gomess, which is the Godzilla knockoff, and Litra, the giant bird monster, and rock, the same rock, which is apparently Litra's egg. And Gomess and Litra are shortenings of the animal's proper scientific names. It works. So anyhow, they go back, and there's been a cave-in, and Jun and Yuriko are trapped in there. They come across Gomess. They do discover that he is vulnerable to bright flashes of light, which, well, Yuriko being a photographer, that comes in handy. They try to dig them out. Eventually they get out, but so does Gomess, and meanwhile Jun and Ippei are trying to get the egg to hatch, and it does, and Litra is a repurposed Rodan, or I guess repurposed, because I believe Larugeos was also a repurposed Rodan. It flies and then kind of sits there, and it does have some bird-like movements. And I'm sure it's Nakajima in the modified Godzilla suit. Then Gomess comes out, and then finally Litra attacks it, and it's got a breath weapon. It's citronella acid, apparently, though it's they don't use a fire extinguisher or a squirt gun or anything. It's done as a ray effect. And they fight and eventually defeats Gomess and then dies. I guess their lives are linked or something. Litra also has a peacock tail, which is kind of neat. Not popping up, but the feathers look like peacock feathers. I can see why they made this the first episode. It's got 2 giant monsters, and it's got a kid, and, well, it's got some excellent model effects, some decent enough monster suits. I mean, nothing made me cringe anyway. I mean, it's effective. That's a good term. Effective. And one thing, not really a complaint, but I pointed this out before. In this episode, Yuriko asks her boss to be sent on the assignment, and he immediately agrees. Well, if you're viewing this as the 12th episode, that makes sense. The problem is, if you're viewing it as the first episode, and then you view the 22nd episode much later, which was actually the first episode, production-wise, you wonder, why did the boss turn down her request to be sent on the assignment and is instead sending the goofy reporters? Because that's episode 1, and this is I'm curious if there are any other cases where showing the episodes out of production order is a problem. So far, this is really the only time. So I've got to say I'm impressed with that. So I've just watched production episode 14. Broadcast episode 9. Baron Spider, Kumo Danshaku, had opening and ending narration, neither of which mentioned unbalance. So it begins at a lighthouse, and it's very atmospheric. You know, it's one thing black and white does well. So I was wondering, why did I like color so much more when because I didn't like to be scared when I was younger. Now I don't mind being scared in a controlled situation. But anyhow, this one guy goes up to check something. Ah! It's a giant spider. Not giant as in Dai Kaiju size. This is a practical effect. It's, I guess it's a marionette, though I didn't see any strings, except I saw webs when they're supposed to be webs, but it's about the size of a dog. It's actually a practical effect, and one problem, it's often a problem with marionettes or things like this, the ambulation isn't really done convincingly. You know, the legs will wiggle and it'll be like it's hovering, a hovercraft with decorative legs, and when it comes down later on, spoiler, really? Well, you know how spiders are, they've got, you know, they'll be, well, the little leg, the hind legs will be here. Okay, grab, pull. Okay, here we go. And go, okay, climb back up. Oh, here it's just, you know, and I guess some kind of winch in there. Butt spinnerette. So that's my only complaint. Obviously, those guys get killed by the spider, and then our trio plus some friends are returning from a party. They're in the area. They get lost. It's okay. I guess we'll camp for the night. And after Ippe and another character almost drowned in what we're told is a bottomless swamp, I'm thinking, why can't they swim out of it? It doesn't seem, unless it's swamps and quicksand are not the same thing, and this just seems to be water that you could swim. I don't know. Let's assume that you can't swim in it. Okay, fine. They see a light, and it's coming from this old house, and long story short, the house is abandoned. They eventually figure out that the light from the nearby lighthouse must have kind of been reflected through the house to make it look like it's coming from the house, and you see a lot of spider webs, and June says it reminds him of the legend of Baron Spider, a rich baron who loved spiders and didn't care that everybody else thought he was crazy. He collected them from all around the world until one day he brought home a extremely venomous tarantula from Europe, and then it bit his daughter on her wedding day, and the poison drove her crazy, and she ended up drowning in a bottomless swamp, just like the one Legend has it that it didn't end there. She later turned into a spider, and then she lived with the Baron until his death. Ooh. June, well, he just sort of tells us as a matter-of-fact story. Doesn't seem to be telling it to scare anyone. So later on, there's people, they're exploring the house, and we see the giant spider. I think I'd have to compare it to pictures of tarantulas. I don't really think it looks like a tarantula. I don't know, this book just says giant arachnids. This book says tarantula. I'm more inclined to agree with the Japanese source book, oddly enough. Doesn't matter. It is effective. I mean, even when it's ambulating unconvincingly, it's still creepy. And eyes light up. It's lurking just out of view, but then June, he lies in the bed and he sees it. And he runs down to warn people, but Yuriko doesn't believe him. It's like, okay, June is a writer, but you've been through so much with him. You think he would make up a story like this? In fact, with all you've encountered, would that even be an unlikely story? I mean, he told the story, but he didn't really tell it to scare people. I don't know, well, maybe, basically because if they believe him, the episode will be shorter, I guess. Seems a little out of character, though. Okay, I guess I have two minor complaints. Yeah, eventually they encounter the spider and get stabbed, and I thought it's a little bit of an anticlimactic ending when they run out of the house, and I don't know if it's a second spider or just the first spider having recovered from its stabbing, and then the bridge on the bottomless swamp is sinking, and okay, I guess I can't swim over it. Swamps are unswimmable in this universe or something, or bottomless ones are. But they managed to get around the spider, though. Spiders can walk on water. Although, wouldn't a giant spider... Never mind, okay, can do that. And actually, that walking looks a bit more convincing, but... Anyhow, they manage to start the car and run over it, and I wish they don't actually show the running over. They do show it after, and as the spider dies, the house collapses and then bursts into flame, and very effective model shot, possibly stock footage, I don't know. But I mentioned one of the friends is kind of a beatnik. He's got sort of a beatnik beard. He's got a striped suit and no tie, but a neckerchief. Also, they find an ocarina, and Ippei is playing. Stop it, it's creepy, okay? And then still hear this creepy ocarina music. They never explain that. Maybe they're not supposed to. I don't know. And the narrator, by the opening closing narration, no mention of unbalance, says, perhaps this giant night spiders used to be human and wish to be human again. So if you come across a spider in your yard at night, leave it alone. And, I wonder what the Japanese Twilight Zone or Outer Limits narration sounded like. Maybe it's the same actor. Could be. Oh yeah, the spider, it also has front spinnerets. You can spit webs out of its mouth because, more effective giant monster spider that way. I'm wondering if this is Kumonga, or maybe a reworked Kumonga, or Spyga in the English dub from Son of Godzilla. Also, there's a woman there. I thought maybe she was Ippei's girlfriend, who is mentioned in the book, but not so far. I've seen very little evidence. It's definitely not the Mi-chan character from the first episode, the Mammoth Flower. Her name is Kyoko. She does show concern for Ippei, but that might just be concern for a friend. I mean, otherwise, maybe she'd be riding in the car with him. I don't know. I don't think she's his girlfriend. I still question whether he really has one or not. This book might be a little inaccurate. Something I've noticed in a couple of episodes, I sometimes think, Yuriko is driving. That's kind of progressive. And no, June is driving. It's right-hand drive, so it looked like she was in the driver's seat. Actually, here when they're ready to go, it looks like she gets in the driver's seat. No, it's from this angle. She's in the back seat, but it looks like the front seat. Then June gets in. Okay. It is his car, I think. I don't know. It's still a little bit indicative of the sexism of the time. Oh, yeah, there is some, they light candles in the house, and that's some nice atmospheric lighting. Only occasionally does it appear that lighting a candle turns on the studio lights.
A licky boom, a licky boom, a licky boom, a licky boom, boom down, boom down.
The 14th episode here, Fury of the South Sea, Nankai no Ikari, has opening narration, no ending narration, no mention of unbalance. It starts off, we've got a fishing boat with a father is the captain and his son is on board for the first time, and some very nicely non-contrived sounding expository dialogue. The son's at the helm, and then they seem to hit a reef, but there's no reefs out there. They're in the middle of the ocean. It turns out they're being attacked by a giant octopus, and it's the boat and the octopus are effective effects, I think. The son washes up, he's the only survivor, he washes up on shore of a nearby island, this is in Micronesia, and he's found by a young island woman and her little brother, and nursed back to health. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, Desk, whatever you want to call him, the chief, sends Yuriko, Jun, and Ippei to that island to investigate the reports of missing ships. And he says, and I'll give you a bonus on top of your airfare. And we find they're not flying, though, so it's not the cost to fly her out there with their own vehicle. They show up on the island on a boat, so presumably they took a commercial flight to a larger island and then took a boat there. So I guess it's just assumed they'll go with her, but hey, he'll reimburse them, and this time he'll even pay them. I don't know. It does seem like an odd setup at times. Not odd enough that I keep saying that. I keep saying that my nitpicks are just nitpicks and not actually show ruiners or anything. They realize the giant octopus, whose name I should remember by the Sudar, I think it is. Yep, Sudar. Killed a lot of people, including natives, and destroyed a lot of ships. This is a sort of Bermuda Triangle type area. Our young castaway, the sailor, wants to kill the octopus, especially out of revenge. But even though the native woman, I don't call him a girl, she's a little too, well, whatever. Anita is her name. Her parents were also killed by Sudar, but she doesn't hate him because he is their island god, their island's protector. They don't really talk about this too much. Well, they do mention that maybe he is. Maybe they shouldn't do anything about it, which is interesting. They could kind of rationalize that, yeah, in the past he's protected them from raiding tribes, but now the world is more modern. There are other ways to do it, and in fact, it's hurting the rest of the world. Oh, I also didn't mention that our trio is sent along with an interpreter. In fact, Yuriko initially refuses, and apparently the reason is because none of them speak the language. So they sent this interpreter. He's kind of a goofy guy. I don't know if the native language is real. I'm going to assume it probably isn't, but they do a good job job of making it seem real. Interestingly, they subtitle it. They don't translate it or anything. It's just Machika, Machika. That's actual dialogue. I wrote it down so it doesn't sound like I'm making fun of it, just in case it really is a real language. Well, meanwhile, the natives do not like the idea that some outsiders have gone to kill their god, and they're going to sacrifice the sailor and Anita and the translator and also Yuriko. Oh, I shouldn't have done this. Oh, I'm the translator. Oh, I'm scared. Well, maybe not quite so over the top. Yuriko is pretty stoic about this. Well, she is experienced with monsters by this point, isn't she? Oh, yeah, I really have to keep better notes here. Maybe I should actually write down the synopsis so I don't forget important elements, like Anita is convinced by the sailor to tell them where Sudar's nest is. That's why she's getting sacrificed as well. Apparently she understands Japanese even though she doesn't speak it. Your beliefs are wrong! It's like, that's the first thing you tell her? Really? Yeah, that's... Okay, seems to work. When has that ever worked? The JSDF drops depth charges and brings Sudar onto land, and he's attacking everybody, and suddenly the natives don't mind fighting back. Anita actually grabs a shotgun and goes up to it, and our sailor guy, he gets, and eventually they do defeat it, and guess what? He decides to stay on the island. Gee, I wonder why. They will tell of his great, and they tell of the great island, the great courageous island beauty, too. I'm gonna marry her. We don't say that, but it's pretty obvious that's what's gonna happen, right? The octopus, I think it's a combination of model of, and, fake tentacles, which seem to vary in size. I mean, so it's around it seems like it's this thick when it's around grabbing a human. When it's grabbing a kid by the ankle, I know they taper, but to that extent. There's also stock footage from King Kong versus Godzilla, which interesting, some of it has scratches and thicker grain. It still works well. I think it helps that it's black and white. That does help to blend everything together. Oh, Yuriko has shorter hair now. This is probably the beginning of the second cour, but are there breaks between cour? Maybe. Although then again, the previous episode, her longer hair could have been a wig too. It's hard to tell. Oh, I think the sound might be in 2-channel stereo. I mean, it says 2-channel, but it could still be 2-channel mono. Each one exactly the same. But during the fire, it sounds like there's stereo there. Then again, it's possible that they do have stereo mixes of the audio. I mean, in the case of Ultraman and Ultra 7, which are subsequent series, they kept the component audio tracks and were able to do 2-channel and also 5.1. Though not for every episode, just for one episode out of every 4. And they released them on DVD in Japan, 4 episodes per disc and 1 episode per disc, so 1 out of every 4 was 5.1. These releases don't seem to have any of those 5.1 unless it's hidden. Maybe check every episode. So I don't know, maybe these are, it doesn't really say, it just says Japanese DTS HD Master Audio 2.0. Could still be 2.0 mono. Oh yeah, something a little embarrassing for me. They have a news announcer and they have his name, an announcer. Said, hey, they didn't subtitle his name. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I'm gonna check what it is. Let's see. Oh, it's Sakai. And then I watched some more and then it says announcer Sakai. It's like, oh. I guess I didn't need to fish this out. Until we get to the next group of 7.